Hello everyone, and welcome to this game of StarCraft that was found on reddit.com/r/castit. We will see spawning here in the bottom right hand position of Whirlwind as our red Terran player, it is ViperXk. And his opponent in the upper right hand position as our blue Terran player, it will be malc. I am Thaco, and I am joined here today by Snow. How you doing over there, Snow?
Hello, Thaco. I'm doing great tonight. Just looking forward to some good StarCraft.
Yes, indeed. And, you know, TVT, what could be better? It can just get so intense and just right down to positioning and mechanics on those tank lines.
You know, honestly, ever since Heart of the Swarm dropped, it's been quite an interesting matchup. It got a little stale at Wings of Liberty, I thought, but lately it's been some very exciting matchups.
It has, especially with the increased prevalence of those drops. You can boost in, drop on the opponent's tank line, and just let their tank line self-destruct itself.
Exactly, and not only that, too, even smaller changes like the earlier siege tank availability and you know, stuff like that have just changed it to make it a little bit more dynamic matchup.
Looks like both players are going to be going for a command center first here. Both of them looking to play a little bit of that longer macro game instead of going for an earlier aggression type build.
Well, you know, it is a very large map, as we see Whirlwind. It's a 4-player map, so hard to scout initially, and honestly, it's not a bad map to just go macro on.
That is true, because your opponent just can't get to your base in time to find out if you didn't go command center first.
Exactly. Plus, you've got, you know, relatively easy to defend thirds and naturals here, where you can just get up to a nice 3 bases while feeling relatively safe from most anything you're going to get thrown at you.
It looks like malc is going to get lucky here on grabbing that scout into his Viper's base first. Going to choose that, scouting that vertical spawn instead of the horizontal spawn.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, Viper sends the SCV the exact wrong direction. So,
well, like, it's sensible enough. A lot of people do fear that horizontal spawn more than the vertical spawn. Your opponent's a little closer to your bases in that case.
Yeah, shorter rush distance for shenanigans, like a 2-racks or something.
Exactly. Just wanted to make sure he wasn't going to get surprised by anything. He should be safe from it, though.
This scout's going to be definitely valuable information here for malc, though, because he knows his opponent isn't throwing anything odd at him, and his macro play is going to be undoubtedly safe.
Behind it, malc is grabbing 2 barracks, and looks like he might be trying to pile on a little early aggression here. Wanted to get things done in the early game. Again,
noting that he's safe, this is not a bad play. Maybe try and even just a little bit of harassment can just be a major annoyance.
And right behind it, right behind the 2 barracks, grabbing 2 refineries and beginning to look up towards that later tech that he will need to be getting. Tried to reposition his barracks a little bit here. That's a little strange.
And we see Viper putting down a factory right now, so a little bit more of a traditional opening we'd expect out of this.
On the 1 gas only, he's not making a very strong run towards any of that late game tech. Just getting there at his leisure, making sure his macro is on point, not getting any disproportionate levels of gas to minerals.
And now malc with a 3rd barrack, so you might be right here. We might have some triple barracks pressure.
I'm going to be interested to see what he does with all that gas he decided to get, though. Is he going to go into Reapers here, or is he going to get the upgrades on the barracks?
Well, we see 2 reactors. Oh, no, a reactor and a tech lab going down.
So he is going to be getting those stims and combat shields. And he is just now starting his factory. So that is where his gas will be dumped from here on in.
And we have some helium production coming out of Viper. So this is going to be interesting. With the bunker down, it's going to be pretty hard for Viper to do too much here. There's a pretty good little choke-off with a bunker up here that should prevent most issues.
These Hellions shouldn't get in at all. They'll just be a scout around on the map. Make sure nothing surprising is happening.
They could suicide in, but it won't be worth it in the long run.
No. Oh, and we see the starport moving over to the tech lab, most likely to get those Banshees on the way. Maybe a Raven to counter Banshees, but that would be a little strange. We do see the Banshee in production now.
Yep, and now this is really common in the matchup right now. Banshee openings are just very popular. They almost always do a little bit of damage, and you get a nice scout, It's just overall, there's not many negatives to opening up like this.
No, there's not. But those Hellions are going to try to make it up into the base and get rebuffed by that bunker almost immediately. Not getting any damage on it. Going to try again. And losing a Hellion for the information that there are indeed Marines on the map.
It's not bad. The first poke up definitely was worth the information. The second one, maybe not so much, but at least now he knows for sure what's out.
That's true. And it looks like he's continuing to pump out Hellions here. And adding on more factories, it looks like Viper is going to go for the mech play here. While we see that malc is going to be going for that much more biocentric play.
This is definitely an interesting play because it's always fun to see mech versus bio. You've got the immobile, large, expensive army versus the quick bio army, and what you can do with that. And the fights are just always interesting because the bio is trying to outmaneuver while the mech is trying to contain.
It comes down to who can that bio player abuse the positioning of the tanks. And we actually don't see any tanks on the field yet, so there are no tank positions to abuse yet.
Indeed.
And that Banshee looks like it got pushed back pretty quickly by those Marines there, who still do not have combat shields, so this Banshee could tear through them.
It also did get 2 kills, which is, respectable. 2 SCVs.
Yeah, it's actually picking up a couple Marine kills there. The medevacs have to evacuate the Marines.
Now this drop is going to be scouted instantly, so I'm not sure how effective it's going to be.
It feels a little strange, but the Hellions are the only thing to defend. He could get some decent damage. The Viking won't actually destroy the medevacs before they start dropping.
True.
It'll have to land if it wants to be truly effective, and yeah, Hellions are going to be all that defends this. They are not going to be the most efficient against these Marines right now, especially without that Infernal Pre-Igniter upgrade.
And now there was a very good drop here by not clumping up for those Hellions. So it was pretty map aware to realize that he shouldn't be dropping all in one clump because then the Hellions would just one-shot the entire ball. So not a bad drop. It didn't seem to do quite as much as he'd hoped though.
Yeah. There were more than enough Hellions there to take care of anything that came down.
True.
And he also pulled back his entire Hellion force, which did lose him a little scouting, but is good in the long run for this. But did he get that full scout on the base? Does he know exactly what's happening down here? Not really. He saw that tech lab on the factory, has seen all the Hellions. He can assume that he's playing against that mech play, but he can't totally confirm it yet.
Now, Viper taking an interesting third position. I would have expected the safer third position to be down in the back left. However, this will allow him to be pretty forward, thinking with his army, and still be defensive.
This is a very aggressive stance. He's moving out across the map, getting ready for the aggression. And there's another big drop coming down the right-hand side of the map. The Viking does spot it, so what will we see defending it? And it is still those Banshees and Hellions. They did actually not ever move. And they just tear through those Marines. A couple of Hellions fall. Well, actually, the Marines are still there, pushing right up into those tanks, and it takes the tanks a minute to clear them out.
It did a little more damage than expected, but honestly, I'm not sure if that was worth it, though. The trade just wasn't quite in Malc's favor there.
In total there, he pulled out 6 SCV kills in all his drop aggression, and he traded out the Hellions, which are, as this game progresses, he wants to be making those into Hellbats.
And we can also see, though, the 30 supply difference here is pretty telling about who... oh, here comes another drop, though.
This is a much bigger one. This is actually only... What is that, a tank and a couple Marauders?
Yes, there's no units in 2 of the medevacs.
I mean, I guess you could try to trick your opponent with that and not make them over-defend it while you hit somewhere else on the map. This tank is taking a little while to clean up, but that drop just get cleaned up easily. And still not a lot of... 3 more SCVs die for another drop.
Now that this is all... at this stage in the game, Malc needs to stop this. Viper is aware that his play is drops. So he almost needs to turtle up, get his army supply up to where it needs to be, because Viper here is cruising ahead in supply.
This Marauder drop in the natural could actually snipe the orbital if he tried to focus it down, but he did not do that in time, and will get picked off here by the Banshee. And all the tanks that came back to defend it. These drops are the right idea, but not very well executed here.
I would totally agree with that statement. It's I said it's a good idea. It's definitely it'll keep the mech home, and it's definitely keeping him off his front door. However, it's just not trading the way he needs.
Not yet. I feel like he needs to, group up, recuperate. He's down quite a large chunk of supply, and that's not where you want to be against mech. Mech does take so long to build up that you can't fall behind on it. And we see that the level 2 upgrades for the mech are coming out, as well as that Infernal Pre-Igniters is on the way. This will get very dangerous here in a minute.
Let's just see 2 extra starports going down in malc space, which is an interesting transition.
It's not the wrong transition, though, to grab that air superiority over the meching player.
Well, some Vikings and Banshees here might definitely help him out a lot.
Because Viper is actually not sitting on a very big air lead. He could very quickly lose that if malc dedicates to it.
And even just 2 or 3 Banshees here will take out a lot of tanks and Hellions.
malc is grabbing that level 1 ship weapons upgrade.
We could definitely be seeing a hard airplay here.
Yeah. The issue that malc will start facing soon, though, is that he's really far behind in the tank count. It's 12 to 3. And he is looking like he wants to play bio-tank, but his tanks will never be able to outposition Vipers at this point. He's just very
being as far
outnumbered.
behind as he is, though, a transition to hard air here might actually be surprising enough to get back into it.
3 more starports coming in right now? Oh, this could get exciting. So he will be up to 6 starports in a minute here. A little engagement in the middle of the map. They're jockeying for position around tanks, but it looks like Viper will clean this up quickly. His Vikings taking out the medevacs. His tanks are having a little trouble against those tanks of malc's, but malc was pushed back in the air, and those Vikings can land and just take care of these tanks.
However, not the worst trade from malc's position, considering he had a very small army there.
It was not. That worked out pretty well for him. His tanks held the position they needed to. And the longer this goes and the more he can try to establish that air dominance, I think the better position he'll be in here.
Although Viper has gotten his Viking count up a little bit here.
He is also still continuing to produce them. I think he's around 10-ish, 8. He'll be up to 8 in a second. The tanks of Viper just pummeling this Marauder ball. Those Hellbats helping quite a bit. And he has free reign on this base at the moment.
Yeah, this base is not long destined for this world.
It will be interesting, though, to see how long it takes Viper to scout this 4th up in the top center of the map. If that stays up, he might think he is in a much bigger lead than he is.
Oh, these Marauders over here getting a tank for free, not bad. Well, one Marauder loss for 1 tank is definitely good.
That is a fair trade at that point. But the tank count is becoming a huge issue. It's 13 to 0. malc has given up on tank production. He is going heavy into that air. He's got 2 Banshees on the way, a single Viking. Having a trouble producing out of all his production facilities at the moment, though.
Yeah, he just does not have
malc GG's. He was never able to get that air transition he needed. Viper just got into his mineral and just disrupted it too much.
Now, malc had the right idea when going bio versus mech. Get into your opponent's face with some drops, keep him at home, but unfortunately you do have to still trade well, and it just didn't happen for him that time.
Also, that GG felt a little premature. I think that malc still had potential to fight out that game. It was just going to be very hard.
Yeah, but he was 120 supplied up down at that point, so
true.
Not a bad GG. Maybe premature, but not a bad GG.
Well, that brings us to the end of that. Another exciting game of StarCraft, and I hope you will all join us for more games in the future.